All right, guys, so the last part of this section is going to be the Pythagorean Theorem. So the Pythagorean Theorem is going to be a formula that only applies to right triangles. So it has to be a right triangle, and they have to specifically show you that it is a right triangle. You cannot ever assume that a triangle is a right triangle. And so if it's a right triangle, the Pythagorean theorem will hold, which you can see here at the bottom of the screen. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A and B do not matter, but A and B must be the legs of the triangle. C is always the hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is going to be the side across from the right angle, always. I've got some videos over there on the right-hand side. I'm going to link those in the playlist so that you can go back and watch them. Just 2 proofs of the Pythagorean theorem, but there are, I would say, probably hundreds of proofs out there that you could do with your students to actually show them how A squared, B squared, when you add those together, they will give you the length C squared. So there's the Pythagorean theorem. Let's do some examples using the Pythagorean theorem. So I've got my triangle, 8 inches by 6 inches by X inches. A and B have to be the legs. So I've got the legs are going to be the 2 sides that make up the right angle. Doesn't matter which one you call it. I'll just say this one's A, this one's B. So the Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared equals, and then C is always going to be the side across from the right angle. C squared. All right, so let's fill all those numbers in. So A is 8 squared plus B we said was 6 squared, and that has to equal C squared, which is X squared. All right, so 8 squared gives me 64, and 6 squared gives me 36, and that has to equal X squared. So 64 plus 36 gives me 100. Now that equals X squared, not X. So to get rid of X squared, to get rid of the squared, I'm going to square root both sides. And then the square root of 100 is 10. And that equals X. And so my answer there would be that C, or X in this case, is 10. All right, I'd recommend pausing the video, try this next one, and then resume and check with me. So we've got my legs. The legs are Y and 8, and then the hypotenuse is 17. So I've got my A, we'll let A be Y. So A squared, Y squared, plus, we'll say B is 8. And that needs to equal C squared, which is 17 in this one. All right, let's simplify the numbers. So 8 squared is going to give me 64. Carry everything down over here. And then 17 squared is going to give me 289. All right, so now I'm trying to get Y by itself. So I'm going to take the 64 and move it to the other side. So subtract 64, subtract 64. Those will cancel and give me Y squared equals 289 minus 64 gives me 225. I'm not quite done. I have to take the square root of both sides. and leave me with y equals, the square root of 225 is going to give me 15. And so the length of that other leg is going to be 15 feet. I guess I should put my units on there. 15 feet. If you want to go back to the last one, 10 inches. All right, let's look at the last one. Square root 51 and square root 26, those are going to make up my legs. I know those are really odd leg measurements, but they're a distance. And then m is going to be my hypotenuse because it's across from the 90-degree angle. So I've got my formula. Plug everything in. So we'll say this one's A, this one's B. Square root of 51 squared plus square root of 26 squared equals C, which is M squared. Now this one's a little odd. It looks funny, but with the squared and the square root are actually going to cancel each other out. And so the square root of 51 squared, those will cancel and give me 51. And then the square root of 26 squared is going to give me 26. And then that's going to give me m squared. I can now combine those two on the left to get 77 equals m squared. Now I'm not quite done. I've got m squared. So to get m by itself, I'm going to square root both sides. So I've got the square root of 77 equals m. Now a couple of different ways we could write this. You could leave that as the square root of 77, but you could also simplify that to the decimal version and give me 8.774. So that would round off to 8.77, and all of that is correct. Either of those answers are right for the distance of the hypotenuse.